Good morning. It's a pleasure to me to be here. I'd like first to congratulate the organization and to thank the invitation that they gave to me. And I'll make a brief presentation about this project that is perhaps the major infrastructure project in Brazil. And it's very important to solve the demand problem between Rio, São Paulo, Campinas. And we are very confident that this is the solution, and in this model, we invited the private sector to achieve the solution together with the government. This project was made together with the IDB. It was possible to construct with their help. We don't have in Brazil capability to project high-speed trains, so we asked help from the IDB to work with us, and I think we did a good job together. Who is controlling the here? No. Here? Okay. Okay. So this is the alignment of the project. There are actually 9 stations considering Aparecida, that's in the middle. So it goes from Campinas to Rio, passing through the 3 major airports in Brazil, not the 2 major airports, and one that could be the largest one in some years, that is close to Campinas, the Viracopos Airport. So that's the framework of the project, going from Campinas, passing through São Paulo, São José dos Campos, Aparecida, Volta Redonda, Barra Mansa, another station, the airport of Rio, Galeão, and the central station in the city of Rio. And the total distance is around 510 kilometers. I like to start explaining why this project. In many places in the world, we are seeing that short distance for airplanes are becoming saturated. That's the case between Rio and São Paulo. And the tendency is to change airplanes to high-speed train and to make the airplanes to concentrate in longer distance. Rio and São Paulo are completely saturated. Who knows Brazil and knows the region knows that there is no way out to find a solution for this demand problem. We need this high-speed train. For example, the demand between the shuttle service between Santos Dumont Airport and Congonhas, both in the center of Rio and São Paulo, it doesn't grow since 2008. It doesn't grow because there is no space left in Congonhas. And Viracopos is exploding the demand because there is no way out to go there. And we are very certain that the solution is the high-speed train. There is no way out to solve this problem. The conditions in that region, they are very good for this project because the distance is the ideal distance. And Rio and São Paulo, they have concentration and both in people and income. That's the heart of Brazil, in the very short distance, considering the whole territory of Brazil. So between São Paulo and Rio, 400 kilometers, We have the metropolitan region of São Paulo is 19 million inhabitants and 12 million in Rio. The total amount of population that would be served by this train would be 36 million people. I think there isn't in the world any condition like this, even in the past or in the future. The most known projects in high-speed train, like Tokyo Osaka, that was made in 1964, they don't have this amount of people until now. And the other one after that in 1981, Paris-Lyon, they don't have the amount of people like this one. So there is a unique condition. The distance and concentration of people and concentration of income. Brazil is not a higher income country, but this region, we concentrate around 40% of the GDP in Brazil. So that's a unique condition that allowed us to model this project as a concession that you will see in a few minutes now. We did, with the help of IDB, a study that was very profound in the demand, alignment, geology, operation, and the financial modeling. All this information is available at that website over there, tavbrasil.gov.br. The estimated cost of the project is around $20 billion, and the public sector will support this project, giving part of the equity and giving most of the financing needed to develop. Projects like this mass transportation high-speed train all over the world, they make lots of cash when in operation, but concentrates necessity of high amounts of money to implement this project. So what we need is time. Once it's operating, we need time to pay back all the investment made. That's the condition the government gave for the private sector be involved in this project, to give the finance with the special conditions to make it viable. So we think this is a good business opportunity for the private sector as well as a necessity as transportation for the country. So some other conditions we put in the model, like technology is a good opportunity for the country as well to learn how to do this and and improve our industry, because it will help not only high-speed train but the whole railway industry in Brazil. It will help, for example, the industry for metros, for example. So we are looking for some other benefits that this project would bring to Brazil. And as I said, the concessionaire will be responsible for the project construction and operation. And in this project we did, it's not mandatory to follow the project. We are giving space to change the project, because we know that we did a good project, but there are some differences in technologies, and we are not choosing beforehand which technology will be implemented. And technology will influence the whole project. So we are looking at this project as a whole, because it changes the alignment, the cost, and everything else. So we are giving space for the concessionaire to make his own project, to optimize the whole process. Okay. So as I said, BNDES will provide the financing necessary, almost all the financing necessary to implement the project. And the government will create a company to be a shareholder of the concessionaire. That's it's called the ETAV. And as I said, the bidding process is open to all technologies. This is the financial results of our studies and how we modeled it in terms of financial feasibility. The total investment needed is around 20 billions. The equity we think it's needed is almost 6 billion. The government will put almost around 2 billion. And we are asking the private to invest almost 4 billion in private equity. And the government will make possible a loan of around 12 billion with the conditions necessary to make it possible. 30 years, the term of the concession is, and customized to the project that will be presented. And other conditions that we think it will happen, like some financing from import agencies for the importation of some goods that will be necessary, and so on. Well, this is the conditions of the financing that we think this is adequate for making the project feasible and attractive. It's the Brazilian long-term rate plus 1% per year during 30 years. And grace period that will be flexible considering the project that will be presented, and some flexibility considering if there is something that goes wrong during the period, we have flexibility to rearrange the payments of the debt, and also some ramp-up revenue risk mitigation during the 10 first years, just to give some mitigation on demand. I believe this will not be used because the problem we need to solve is demand. But anyway, this will be part of the project. So it's a high cash flow generator, and that's what I said before. This is the bidding process. There will be a technical pre-qualification that we know that there are around 6 countries or companies that know how to do high-speed train and operate high-speed train. So we'll be accepted, those who know how to do that. And after that, we are going to open a financial proposal, and that's it. Very straightforward process, 29th. And we hope until the end of the year we sign the contract. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Congratulations for Jerome and Antonio for these amazing videos and beautiful presentation. I'm sure we can learn from you. We can exchange experience in preparation to our World Cup 2014 and Olympic Games in Rio 2016. I didn't bring a video, but you know that Brazilians are very emotional. So you can imagine Mr. Lula and Pelé hugging themselves and crying like a child. So it was happened. And maybe next time I can bring to you the video. We prepare a very brief presentation to show what's happening now, especially in financing model for the investments we need to be ready for the World Cup 2014. Next, please. Oh, I can. Okay. We are expecting about 500,000 tourists coming to Brazil. It's a very huge number. We also need to build stadiums, 6 new stadiums, and 6 stadiums, arenas must be renovated. We have a lot of projects involved, about 47 public transportation projects, more than 1,000 projects involving hotels and inns, just to accommodate all these people that we are expecting. So in this expansion, we are working to add at least 93,000, almost 100,000 new beds in our capacity. And if you consider overall investments linked to World Cup, we can sum about $8 billion. Next, please. Well, the cities that will host World Cup, from the north to south to west, from west to east, you know Rio, São Paulo, Brasilia, but probably don't know Cuiabá, which is in Pantanal. And the northeast also, Salvador, Recife, Fortaleza, Manaus in the Amazon state, right at Amazon River, and also my town, Belo Horizonte, in the south, Porto Alegre, Curitiba. So they are all capitals. As I said, from the north to south, we're going to host the World Cup. This is a summary of the investments committed to the FIFA committee. So we are talking about almost $14 billion, it's in dollars. In the arenas, we're going to need more than $3 billion investments. In airports, there's some more than $3 billion also. And the urban mobility, which is a huge necessity we have, almost $7 billion. All those investments are committed by government, federal, state, and municipalities in order to be ready to host the World Cup. Doing a breakdown, next. We have 5 projects on the arenas in the PPP model. The viability is in the PPP model. The bidding was completed in 5 of these cities. 1 is in the process, Natal. We already have the winners, the constructors, the vendors. It means we complete the procurement also for those constructions. And the funding in the PPP will be provided by BNDES, our development bank. Those 5 projects complete $1.5 billion. We, Banco do Brasil, we are in discussions in 3 of these projects to be the advisor. But all the funding is expected from BNDES. Going forward, other 5 projects, they are public contracts we call obra pública, means that the states, the municipalities will request funding from BNDES, and they will do the sponsors. But of course, they already completed the bidding. They have the winners for the constructions and for the renovations. We are talking about, in these 4 projects, about $1.3 billion. Probably you may know the famous Corinthians in São Paulo. So they are doing the project by themselves, involving about $390 million. And the urban mobility, as I said, it's a necessity for us. If you're going to receive all these people, they have to have urban mobility. So there are projects in all the 12 cities that will host the World Cup. Investments about $7 billion. And again, the main funding provider is BNDES. In the previous panel, Cristiane Haché raised the question about the viability for the urban projects. You know that it's not too simple. It's been a problem for any country to lead with the urban mobility. So the government, in this case, each city, they are totally involved, and probably they're going to be sponsors. We know that it's not too simple to become viable some projects, especially outside Rio, São Paulo, Belo Horizonte. But they are committed to these investments. There are opportunities for constructors, advisors, and we are talking about almost $7 billion. And just to illustrate what kind of funding BNDES is providing, the BNDES created special programs for the arenas, long-term funding. The borrowers could be the municipalities, the football clubs. So the money is there. They must apply the projects. They must convince BNDES. They must comply with the credit criteria that BNDES set in this program. Also for the hotels, in this case, we're going to see a lot of private investments. A lot of investors interested in investing in hotels and inns in Brazil, but and also BNDES can provide the funding in a special program. And for urban mobility, next slide, also is a special program from BNDES. Long term, the borrowers could be the states, the city, even private companies that are willing to invest in the regime of concession. But we believe that mostly these projects will be sponsored by the governments. And also, I didn't mention, I don't have this slide, but Caixa Econômica Federal, which is 100% government is sponsored, is providing funding and special programs for transportation and hotels. So we expect that specifically for the World Cup, we're gonna have the funds we need provided by the government and its agents. It's all I have to present. I'm available for other questions, but at least I'd like to invite you all in this next slide to visit Brazil for the World Cup. Can you project the next slide, please? Yes. I'd like to invite you to go to Brazil, enjoy the life there. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you, John, for the introduction. I'm very, very pleased to talk to this small but very important audience and group of close friends. I don't know why it's so small today, perhaps not so much interest in our project. However, that gives us more time to make our presentations, which is always good. Let me start by saying that I will talk about the, please, to the table of contents. If you can move on to the table of contents on the presentation. Oops, sorry. Okay, now it's working. Okay. I'll talk briefly about the concession highlights. Our section specifically, because this project, because of its length, was divided into 3 sections by the Colombian government. Then I'll talk a bit about some infomercial about the sponsors, the main sponsors, Odebrecht and Corfi Colombiana. Some description of the concession structure we have there. What future appropriations are, I will try to to discuss that with you because it's a main part of the revenues of the concessionaire. And finally, I will share with you some details of our financial closing that we just reached at the end of last year. Let me start then by saying that Colombia, as of these days and for the past 8 or 9 years, has been enjoying of a solid macroeconomic fundamentals and stable political environment. So that's key for the development of this type of projects. Then this road in particular is very strategic and essential for the country's economic growth and development. As a matter of fact, it was declared as a strategic project for the improvement of and the development of the road infrastructure, and that was defined in a law. So all the political support and all the government commitment was there in place when the project was awarded. Obviously, the strong track record of the leading sponsor, in this case Odebrecht, in similar concessions in Latin America was also a very important part of this project. In the past few years, we had the IRSAs in Peru, which are landmark projects, and they had landmark transactions in the financial markets as well. The strong support, as I mentioned, from the Republic via these future appropriations. For our section only, the government allowed $1.8 billion, but overall $3 billion more or less for the project. Then the solid support from the sponsors also via guarantees and contractual obligations. It's also a very important part that needs to be highlighted. And finally, the stable and proven regulatory framework in Colombia. Colombia has concessions for over 20 years now, so they do have a lot of experience and knowledge regarding this business, which is also very important to have a counterpart that understands your needs and can work along with you in these partnerships. About our section and about the project, as I said, this is a very essential road for the Republic of Colombia. It connects basically Bogota, which is in the center part of the country, to the ports in the Atlantic. So it's been called the main corridor in Colombia, and given that most of the production, industrial, agricultural, and mining production from Colombia takes place in the center part of the country, this is obviously a main corridor. There is an existing road, as I will say in the further slides, but the duplication of the physical capacity of the road was a very important issue for the Republic. A recent study from FEDESarrollo, which is a very well-known and recognized institution in Colombia for independent studies, suggests that for the increase of 1% in kilometers of paved roads, the GDP of the country will grow by a 0.4%. So that shows us the direct relation between infrastructure and growth, right? And the importance of it, given those figures. Okay, let me move on. Here's a description of the whole project, a Ruta del Sol overview. As I was saying, it's a main corridor. It connects the important centers of population, consumption, and production to the ports in the Atlantic. The whole project has over 1,000 kilometers in length, and given that length, the government of Colombia, first thing, they committed approximately $3 billion in future appropriations, which I will explain in the next slides what exactly are and how they work. And also, given its length and magnitude, it was divided into 3 different sections, and each one was awarded on a different bidding process, and each one has a different concessionaire. Our section in particular, which is section 2, it's a DFBOT type of contract, design, finance, build, operate, and transfer. That includes obviously the operation and maintenance of an existing road, therefore it's a brownfield project, and constructing from zero a new lane in order, as I was saying before, to duplicate physical capacity, actual physical capacity. The contract for our section has 528 kilometers specifically, and aside of those things that I mentioned, we as concessionaires have to administrate the right-of-way. We have to deal with all the environmental management, but given that this is a brownfield project, environmental issues are not as important as in other projects in Colombia, and also because our section goes through plains and valleys in the middle of Colombia and doesn't go through any environmental hotspots, so to speak. We are responsible for the financing of the project as well, and as I said, the O&M of the concession and the project. This project has been granted to concessionaire Ruta del Sol, which is a private company formed by Odebrecht, Colombiana, and Solarte Constructores. Solarte is a local construction company. They have 5% of the stake, and they are the largest road constructors in Colombia, with up to 1,400 kilometers built up to date. We do have 5 toll plazas in the concession, and the average daily traffic of them all is over 17,000 vehicles. Just a brief description of the physical part of the project. I mentioned that our topography is very kind. However, we do have, because we are in the mid of Colombia, we do have 100 bridges that need to be built. Hydrology is perhaps it is indeed the main challenge of our engineering on this project. We don't have any tunnels nor viaducts in this project, but we do have, as I was saying, 100 bridges that need to be built. Because of the length of our section itself, it is divided in 7 stretches. The overall time for doing all construction works and civil works goes up to 5 years. And the important thing to highlight here is that the concessionaire has signed already a turnkey lump sum contract, EPC contract, for $1.2 billion with a consortium of construction companies led by Odebrecht as well. The ownership of the concessionaire, as I was saying, Odebrecht, we have 62% of the stake, Corfi Colombiana 33%, and this local construction company, Solarte, 5%. Regarding Odebrecht, it is a Brazilian construction company. It was founded in 1944. According to ENR, Engineering News Record, we are the largest construction company in Latin America, and we've been so for the past 10 years or so. Just to give you an idea, official figures of 2009, we had revenues of over $23 billion, and the good news is that non-official, but by the end of 2010, we had revenues of over $30 billion. So the group is really having an impressive growth in the last 10 years. The lines of businesses that we have include the petrochemical industry with Braskem, which by these days must be the 6th or 7th largest petrochemical in the world. ETH Bioenergy, which produces ethanol. As you know, Brazil is a leading country in ethanol producing. And obviously the construction side of the group, of the holding, Constructora Norberto Odebrecht, that has lines of business in real estate, infrastructure, environmental engineering, oil and gas. We do have Petrobras as partners as well. We build all the offshore platforms, for example, for them, and we are very active in their current projects, such as the Pre-Sal, and I'm sure you heard about that, all the discoveries that they're making in the offshore base of Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. Regarding Corfi Colombiana is part of Grupo Aval. Grupo Aval is the largest financial conglomerate in Colombia. They own and operate banks, pension funds, and investment funds in the country. And also, and I want to highlight this here, they have been operating road concessions for over 20 years. As a matter of fact, they own the oldest road concession in Colombia, PISA. That was awarded at the beginning of the 90s. So what we think here, and that's key for our business, is that we had a good conjunction of construction muscle with Odebrecht and operating and financing experience through Corfi Colombiana. So we think this is a very good blend, and it was part of our success story in this project. If I may move on to a concession structure. This is a summary of the main terms of the agreement that we signed with the Republic of Colombia. We've been awarded December 2009, and we signed this contract January last year. We started operations in March last year, and because of the way this contract has been structured, we do have a 1-year period which will end this coming March. That is called the pre-construction phase, in which we have to obviously have all the detailed engineering, subscribe the EPC agreement that I already mentioned that we did, accomplish financial closing, and I will talk about that in a bit, obtain all environmental licenses, and administrate the right-of-way of the road. Then we will move on to the construction phase, which will last for 5 years, and finally the operating phase until the end of the concession. The term of the concession, it's a Colombian model, depends on the time when you reach the amount that you proposed, that you submitted in your bid, in your offer. So once you reach that amount, the concession has to go back to the government, right? Therefore, the term is variable, but given the current figures and actual toll collections, we are foreseeing this concession to be lasting for approximately 15 years. That's our estimate as of these days. The grantor is the INCO, which is the National Institute of Concessions. It's part of the Ministry of Transports in Colombia. And the sources of revenues are vigencias futuras, which are future appropriations of the budget of the nation, and I will talk about them in a bit, and toll collections. I could say that the blend of these two gives us more or less a 2/3 coming from future appropriations over the life of the concession, and 1/3 comes from toll revenues, more or less. Okay, and I was saying that the object of the contract, INCO grants this section to the concessionaire to design, finance, improve, build, operate, and maintain Section 2 of Ruta del Sol. The structure that we do have, we have a concessionaire has been created as a private entity, independent from the shareholders, obviously. And the shareholders I already mentioned, Odebrecht, Corfi Colombiana, and Solarte. We do have very important relations with the Republic of Colombia via the Ministry of Finance and INCO, given these future appropriations that I mentioned, and the relation to administrate and management the concession agreement. Also the EPC contract and the relation via this EPC contract with the contractors, and the local banks, now that we have reached financial closing, 7 local banks for the credit agreement. Those are the most important relations that we have in our structure. Regarding future appropriations, what are they and how they work? Well, let me read this, because future appropriations are expense authorizations of the national government, allowing a governmental agency, in this case INCO, to separate and commit from resources it is entitled to receive in the future from the budget of the nation, cash amounts to meet certain contractual obligations. So basically what they are is multi-year budgetary allocations of the nation that exceed government administration terms. Future appropriations have a history of more than 20 years in Colombia. Colombia has never made a default in its republican life, and vigencias futuras are a very strong and solid instrument for this type of projects, and it's been proven over these 20 years. 60% of these future appropriations will go to compensate for the construction of the new road, and 40% will go and compensate the upgrading of the existing road. because as I mentioned, there is an existing road and we have to upgrade that one and build the second lane from zero. Okay? How they work, the disbursement mechanism, the Ministry of Finance pours that monies into INCO's account each year on the budget. As I said, we don't need any approval for that year over year. Then INCO pours that money into an independent trust that was created, and that money stays under INCO's name in the trust up until the concessionaire finishes what, according to contract, is called a milestone. A milestone is comprised of 10 kilometers of road built, and obviously to get that approval, we need the supervisor's work and approval in order to get that milestone checked, and therefore receiving those monies from the independent trust, within the independent trust, from the accounts of INCO to the accounts of the concession. And finally, I wanted to share with you our financial closing. We had this on November 25th last year. We've just been awarded with the transportation deal of the year by Thomson Reuters PFI, and that's we're very happy with that. Obviously, that's excellent news for the project. And some overview of this financial closing, given that our revenues are peso denominated and are in pesos, and they are indexed to CPI, which I can say that is our current, actually, our currency, sorry. We have this division in the credit agreement into 3 tranches under the facility. There is a tranche, a long-term tranche in pesos, which approximately comes to $530 million, a bit in dollars as well, in long term, 70 million, in order to finance imports, mainly machinery and equipment, and dollar-denominated costs. And there is another tranche, a short-term facility in pesos, which comes to $160 million approximately for a project in Colombia. Funds were entirely raised from local institutions. As I mentioned in a previous slide, 7 local banks went up to their limits, but we could close this deal with them within the country. Although past August last year, we started a non-deal roadshow here in the US to see if the international investors would have appetite for our project first, and for local pesos, local currency second. We gladly found out that they do have the appetite, and they were willing to put some tickets in this. However, the local banks just gave us some conditions that were unbeatable. So this is good news also, that local savings can finance local projects. That's the idea. The availability period that we had is the longest granted for a project in Colombia. And this is very important because it matches our needs in the construction phase, basically, therefore mitigating the negative carry on the project. And finally, the longest tenor that has been granted for a credit index to CPI was also a main thing of this, a main achievement of this financial closing. Well, that was all I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco. Very interesting. And I'm now very pleased to call on Ramaz Nikolaishvili, the Minister of the Regional Development and Infrastructure of Georgia, to talk about Georgia's highway development program.